The US ambassador to Israel has intervened after the Albanese government quietly cancelled the travel visa of an Israeli-American tech advocate, Hillel Fuld, who was due to visit here in coming weeks. Mr Fuld was scheduled to speak at a fundraising event in Melbourne and following events in Sydney, but that's all now been scuttled after Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke claimed his presence could pose a risk, and I quote, to the health, safety and good order of the community, particularly Muslim Australians. Home Affairs claims Mr Fuld has posted on multiple platforms and made statements denying credible documented atrocities in Gaza and Islamophobia rhetoric. Joining me now, Executive Council of Australian Jewry co-CEO Alex Rivkin. Alex, thank you for your time. We've seen these diplomatic representations today from the US, from their ambassador, the American ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, urging Tony Burke to rethink this decision to overturn his block on the visa. Mr Huckabee says Mr Fuld poses no threat of any kind. So why the travel ban here, do you think, Alex?
Well, it's a plainly preposterous decision, Peter. I mean, Hillel Fuld is a tech entrepreneur. He's an expert in his field. He is an uncontroversial figure, and he was planning to come to Australia to appear for an organisation like Individu Dom that does phenomenal work as a first responder on the ground, including after October 7. And to think that he was someone that could be deemed of such ill character that he should be excluded and banned from entering this country is absurd. He's also, I should mention, the brother of Ari Fuld, a hero who died in a terror attack and in his final moments of life subdued his attacker to save others. I think this is a very dangerous use of migration policy as a tool of statecraft to try to keep out people who have mildly controversial views. I mean, Hillel has spoken about Gazan society after 20 years of Hamas rule. He's spoken about radical Islam as a threat to the West. We may agree or disagree, we may use his language or avoid it, but there's nothing in what he said that is so heinous and preposterous that he poses a risk to public order, and this ban should be overturned. Well,
we used to be a country that believed in free speech. I mean, we want to hear these ideas, and as you say, we can accept or disagree with them. Andrew Hastie, who's taken on the job now as Shadow Home Affairs Minister, he is demanding the government release a statement, a detailed statement, saying what are the reasons for cancellation. He is worried that the cancellation suggests that controversial political opinions are now considered a risk to the community. I tell you what, though, there seems to be a growing pattern of pro-Israel or pro-Zionist speakers finding it very difficult to get into Australia.
That's right. I think that there is, as Andrew Hastie has said, a threat to free speech and free expression, certainly, but I think there's a very specific threat to Israelis and to the Jewish community here, because we are seeing increasingly a pattern of behaviour of this sort of cancellation, of this sort of malicious use of migration policy. We saw a few months ago a former Israeli justice minister denied entry to Australia as well, which I think damaged our reputation abroad as a free and open society. Since October 7, I've spoken to countless members of my community who have family in Israel, who have tried to come to Australia, who previously used to travel here with no issues at all. And now they're seeing unusual delays, calls for additional paperwork. All of these things are happening, and they kind of beg the question of how the government sees Israel and Israelis, and not just the government, but ordinary Israelis. Are they still seen as friends and allies of this country?
Particularly this guy's a dual national, and I think that's going to make things very difficult for the Prime Minister when he catches up with the US President at the G7 in Canada in a couple of days' time. I mean, I think it's bizarre. We can bring in almost 3,000 people from Gaza with basically no security checks at all, but this businessman, just because he speaks in favour of Israel, is barred. At the same time, I can't recall, you tell me if I'm wrong, I can't recall one hate preacher who's been deported under this government.
No, that's quite right. And as you say, thousands of Gazans came here, obviously in humanitarian distress and in a difficult situation there, no one denies it, but they came from a territory that was ruled with an iron fist by a vicious terrorist organisation that controls every aspect of public life in that country. And the fact that people were able to come here by their thousands with very weak, very loose vetting, that posed a risk to our national security and our public order. Hillel Fuld certainly does not. And you're right, we've seen hate preachers regularly inciting violence against our community. We've seen extremely controversial Palestinian speakers come here, often at the public expense. I'm thinking in particular of Susan Abulawa, who came here to speak at Adelaide Writers' Week, and she refers to Israelis in the most violent and vicious terms and calls for the destruction of the state. And she was able to come to this country. So there's clearly something going on, and the federal government, and particularly the Minister for Immigration and Home Affairs, needs to account for it.
Okay, so how can people watching the show who want to support free speech in this country, how can they support the overturning of this ban? Where do they go, Alex? Do they petition the minister? Do they sign a petition? Is there something on your website?
Well, look, I would urge them to do two things. Firstly, they should contact the minister and convey their concerns about the denial of the visa to Hillel Fuld. I would also urge them to do something positive. There's a tradition in Jewish history and custom to take something negative and turn it into something positive and hopeful. Magen David Adom is one of the most wonderful organisations doing vital charitable work. They're first responders. They save lives, particularly after terror attacks in Israel. And if anyone wants to support them, I would strongly urge them to do so.
Good point. And they are a Jewish charity, not unlike the Red Cross. And it doesn't matter what religion or background you are, if you need their help, you get it. Thank you very much, Alex.